Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining us on this webinar this afternoon, which is how to build a website that attracts your ideal clients. This afternoon, you might be noticed that once again, I'm joined by yet another superstar, and that is Joe Faith from Joe Faith Copywriting. How are you doing, Joe?
Fine, good, thank you.
Good, very good. We've just been talking about where we've been on. Well, I haven't been, but Joe's been on some holidays this year, so we're now feeling very, very kind of holiday bluish. So hopefully this will give us a lift, and I'll hopefully give you guys plenty of stuff to think about as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through 10 things that we see as non-negotiables when building financial planning websites. You are obviously have probably seen lots of financial planning websites, and you probably know a lot of this stuff anyways, but it's always nice to reinforce it, and you might pick up a few things that you don't know as well. We do have a lot of space for questions, so if you want to stick them in the Q&A down the bottom, you can stick them in there, and we'll get to them at the end, as always. This is being recorded, and we will be sending out the slides tomorrow, so that probably avoids you having to ask that question, unless you join later on, of course. But otherwise, I think I am going to share my slides and we'll get started. And I will need some help from Joe just to let me know that I'm doing it right, because we tested this before we came on. Is that working, Joe? Are we seeing the right screen?
We are, yes.
Perfect. Good stuff. Okay, so like we said, what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the non-negotiables that we think that you need on your website. So we're not going to say that these things are, if you don't have these things, then your website is crap. But these are things that we should be working towards to getting on your website, especially in a profession like financial planning. And some of the things, like we've already said, will be kind of things that you already know. So if you've got them, then great. But if you haven't got them, then of course we can work on getting them on there. What we're not going to do is show you how you can get 3,000 clients overnight. So I think, and Joe, I think you'll agree with this, but financial planning websites are, I think a lot of people kind of describe them as shop fronts or digital brochures, or there's lots of different words that people use for them. I don't think the majority of financial planning businesses get their new clients from their websites. They might come through their websites, but it's actually quite rare that a website itself gets people new clients. It's usually existing referrals. It's usually going out there and networking and accountants and solicitors and all those kind of things. So what we're going to show you today is things to, again, when people do land on your website, that their trust in you increases, and that's where the value of the shopfront or the digital brochure comes through. And by the way, if you were going to get 3,000 clients overnight, I think that would be unmanageable for a lot of people as well. So we're definitely not going to show you how to do that. Okay, so let's just get fired in and let's just get on with it, because we've got a lot to get through today. So again, I don't think this will be a shock to anybody, but number one is absolutely testimonials. And the best financial planning websites we see out there, majority of them, if not all of them, have some kind of testimonials on there. Some people call these reviews, whatever you want to call them. It is the social proof. It's clients telling people how amazing you are. And that could be video format, it could be text format. There's loads of different ways to get these from your clients. But in a profession like ours, where trust is so important, people definitely trust their peers more than they trust your marketing materials. So this is serious, stuff in financial planning. It's a lot of money that people are going to be either not giving, but trusting you to guide them with. But it also, they're going to be paying, quite substantial fees compared to other things that they've paid for in the past. So trust is a really key factor. And a lot of the time, we're asking people to do this kind of stuff with really no idea what it is. If you go out there, the majority of people will not really understand what a financial planner does, or what financial advice is, or what you guys do. So showing case studies and testimonials for this kind of stuff can really help increase that trust. And like I've said, clients trust their peers more than you. There's loads of stats out there that show this, that shows that they trust Google reviews, videos, testimonials of real people. Because, of course, we know that anybody can just make up some kind of testimonial or something like that. But that's why videos and stuff come through better. But they definitely trust their peers more than what you're telling them. And that's just a fact. That's just what it is in our profession. And like I've said again, video testimonials are really the gold standard. If you can get your clients to sit down and tell their story about how they worked with you and the transformation that they went through when they're working with you, not only are these great cinema for your clients to see like what it actually looks like and how you work with clients, they're also really good because they can see the eyes of the people that you've actually worked with and they can hear their stories as well. So if you do have budget to do video testimonials, these things always not only make the website look better, but they're also more successful than text ones as well. And Joe's going to take you through hero statements.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So your hero statement, that is the opening line at the top of your homepage. It's the first thing that your visitors see. And if you're not optimizing your hero statement, you're missing a really big opportunity. There's loads of research out there that says that you basically have maximum of 10 seconds to
Sorry, Joe.
grab your reader's attention. So if you are not using that hero statement to the best of your ability, you are missing a trick. One mistake I see a lot, and one that you should avoid, is having your hero statement saying, welcome to insert name of your company. So welcome to XXX Financial Planning, or whatever that may be. There are a number of reasons why you shouldn't do this. Firstly, as Dan has suggested already, a lot of your prospects, leads, clients are coming from referrals. They already know the name of your business. That's not going to come as a surprise to them. Also, your logo is more than likely going to have your company name in it, so you don't need to repeat it. But most importantly is that hero statement is your way of telling your visitor that they're in the right place, and that you are the solution to their problem. So you don't want it to be ambiguous. You need it to be clear. You need it to be concise, and you need it to explain what you do and who you do it for very, very clearly. If you don't, people are going to click away, go to your competitor, and not come back. So a good example, as I said, yeah, you've only got a few seconds to make an impression on that visitor, so make it count. A good example would be something like tailored retirement planning for small business owners. So you've said what you do. You offer tailored retirement planning, and you've said who you do it for, small business owners. No ambiguity. Everyone knows where they stand. Everyone knows they're in the right place. Yes, so you're focusing on the big challenge that they're facing. You're focusing on the big transformation, the value proposition that you add. So go and have a look. I would implore you to go and have a look at your own website, see what your hero statement says, and imagine yourself being a visitor to the first time on your website and thinking, do I know what these people do, and can they help me?
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, definitely.
Similarly, the meet the team page, really, really important part of your website. It's your place to build a strong connection with your audience, and it's a way of humanizing your firm and your organization. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. We're all human. We want to know that there is a person behind the service or behind the product. So this is a really important way of demonstrating your credibility, your authenticity, and to show that you actually exist and that you care and that you want to be there for your clients, and that you're approachable. You know, that you want people to feel comfortable getting in touch with you. This, you know, you're dealing with really important topics for them. This is their livelihoods, this is their savings, their wealth. You want them to feel like they're being cared for, and that they are dealing with a credible organization. So yes, and these are legitimately some of the most visited pages. Team pages, about pages are, after the homepage, the second most visited pages, because once someone's decided that, yes, you sound like you are the right solution, they want to know, to make sure that you are trustworthy and you're credible and that you are who you say you are. So if you don't have a team page, you're missing a really good opportunity to connect with your prospects. And if you do have one, make sure that it is actually doing what you want it to do. Finally, really important to include pictures of yourself or your team. They're worth every penny. Make them professional, make them look good. Having one off your iPhone isn't gonna cut it. It's worth every investment. Also, make the pictures kind of look like you. So if you are an advisor who goes to your client and you're wearing jeans and a t-shirt, then don't have headshots of you suited and booted on your website, because you're not actually being authentic and displaying who you really are. Kind of an added point on this one that I often tell my clients is it's always nice to include pictures of you and your team outside of the office environment if it's applicable. If you do things within the community, if you help charities, if you have fun days, whatever it is you do, it's always nice to include pictures like that to show that you're real. People just want to know that you're real and that you're human.
100%. Yeah, I think as well, I could again agree with everything you said there, Joe, but I think one extra thing I would add is the bios of people on these pages. So if I just take a personal example, I used to work in a financial planning business, and the amount of clients who we had our fees on our website and they would never mention our fees, but the amount of people who would mention that I really like Greg's or something like that, for example, or I've seen on your website that you don't like this, for example. The amount of people there were new prospects and clients who would come in and say that kind of stuff just proved to me that they actually do really read this kind of stuff, and it is important, and it adds that human element of, yes, by all means, we are someone to trust and we're important, like, this kind of stuff is important and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like you've been saying, Joe, we are still human beings. And I feel like that human element, if you can get those bio pages looking really, really good, and they can talk about not only qualifications and that kind of stuff, but also about what your team get up to in their free time and what they like and what they don't like. I think that stuff can really, really cut through and take away that seriousness that we have in our profession sometimes. It's a bit playful and it's a bit kind of, colloquial, but actually that's what a lot of clients actually really like to see. And some clients won't read it, some clients won't like it, and if they don't, they don't. But a lot of people who will engage with your business will actually really like that kind of stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to add that, your team pages shouldn't just be your CV.
No,
If you're
definitely
wanting to differentiate yourself, this is a great place to differentiate yourself from everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. So this ties lovely into what we've just been talking about there, because again, like we've already been saying, it's really important to show your real self, and that's why bio pages are so great and that kind of stuff. And there's an example here of Carla from Oakmere Wealth Management, which is a brilliant financial planning business that we've been working with, and they actually have not only a picture of themselves in like I wouldn't say corporate, but like a proper headshot. But they also have a little fun one where, for example, Carla really likes running and she takes part in running competitions. So she's got a picture of herself when you hover over the normal picture of her, like superimposed onto a track there as well. And the rest of the team have got these as well. So, for example, somebody really loves baking, so they've got a picture of them with like a whisk and a bowl and that kind of stuff. This kind of stuff, although it might sound really, really simple and really silly, it actually, again, really, really does come through, because, again, this is a people profession and it's important that we show our real selves. And you can be professional without being stuffy. And I feel like it's an interesting kind of distinction to make. But I think if I say this, all of you guys in the audience who are watching this will understand what we mean by this. You can still be incredibly professional and, go to meetings in t-shirts and jeans and all that kind of stuff, but still not have to turn up looking like like you've just come from a board meeting or something like that. You don't necessarily have to be stuffy in order to be professional, and showing your real self and being a bit colloquial, this kind of stuff, not only does it kind of increase trust in you guys, but it also differentiates you from the firm down the road who are probably not doing that kind of stuff. They will probably be safe and they'll probably stick to what they know and continue to not really show them real selves. Whereas this can really kind of make you guys stand out a little bit. So yeah, absolutely show the personal human side of your team members, like we've already been talking about with, likes, dislikes, and what they get up to in their free time and that kind of stuff. Although you might think, yeah, and I completely agree that if you're sat there thinking that this is about the clients, not necessarily about your team, 100%, that is completely true. However, this kind of stuff is also important and it shouldn't just be completely left out. Yes, focus on your clients. Yes, focus on them, but it is important to show the human side of your team members as well. And I'm going to second what Joe said about team pictures. The one thing that I would say with these, of course, is we've had experiences where they've got a full team picture and within 2 months, somebody has left and that team picture is now out of date. So it can be a bit frustrating. There's loads of things out there where you can get like ongoing things with photographers where they come in every now and again and they do like a little photo shoot every couple of months or something like that. That might sound like overkill to a lot of you, but with these ones, what I would say is get individual team pictures. Absolutely, with team pictures, just be wary that sometimes they do go out of date and you might need to change them all the time. But completely agree with what Joe said of the investment in these is absolutely worth it and they completely change the feeling of a website. If I was to show you two examples of one where there's amazing team pictures and one without, I can almost guarantee which one you would favor and also your clients would favor as well. So take that kind of stuff seriously with the team pictures as well. Joe, anything to add on that one?
No, I agree. I think the point about being professional without being stuffy is so important. I mean, I remember back in my journalism days when I wrote about financial advisors, we'd get the same headshots and we were always trying to look for people who were just trying to do something a little bit different, even if it was how they presented themselves, just to stand out.
Yeah.
We used to get the same old people in suits all the time. So everyone's doing the same thing. It's such a good opportunity to stand out and do something totally different.
100%, definitely. Okay, so next one is to explain accreditations and things like qualifications and stuff like that. Now, what we want to be careful of here is not overkill with this one, and not to be boring with it either. So if you're looking at an example on the screen there, you can see this is Kite Financial Planning, which I would go and check out if you get a chance. So they've got their chartered financial planner logo on there. They've got their certified financial coach on there, and they've also got that they work with the Institute for Financial Wellbeing as well. Those kind of things are great, even though the client really probably doesn't understand what all of those things mean. It's really a key trust factor for this kind of stuff. And again, like I've already said, they don't really understand what these letters mean. So I've seen, websites where people have put all the letters after their name of like DIPFA, PIP, all the ALIBF or whatever it is. There's loads of letters there. The client doesn't understand what any of those really mean. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't necessarily include them, but I don't think that you should think that this is going to be a key factor in order that somebody who's going to come and work with you, because ultimately it's a bit of a hygiene factor, this kind of stuff. So what I would do instead is, say, for example, if you are a chartered firm, is to explain how that makes you different and what that difference means for the client. So yes, absolutely put the badge there saying that you're a chartered firm and all that good stuff, but also you can have a little section, and some other firms do this, of why chartered matters or what being a chartered financial planning business means, or how this makes you different from other firms, for example. Because the likelihood is, yes, chartered actually probably means something to these people. So you should absolutely include that on there. So with all of this, don't just stick it on there as something that, you feel like you should, or you feel like you're being forced to. Make something of it, of how that actually adds value to a client's life. The Institute for Financial Wellbeing is a great one as well, for example. I've seen some people really use this where they put a section on there about how they go through IFW courses and that kind of stuff, because that helps them be better financial planners. That's really good stuff, and that's really important to include on your website as well. And like I've already said, these are a trust factor, not a hygiene factor. I would imagine that most people who come to work with or come to your websites, or have been passed your way, would probably expect, well, actually would definitely expect that you've got all the necessary qualifications. So you've got the diploma, you've got all those kind of things. If you're doing mortgages, you've got CMAP or whatever it might be in order to be able to do the job. So they're not looking for kind of those things. They're looking for what might make you different from another firm who doesn't have certain accreditations and that kind of stuff. And that's where things, again, like the IFW, money coaching, all that good stuff, they can be really, really good to differentiate you from somebody else. So absolutely include those ones. Joe, anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered it all.
Grand. God, I'm flying through this, I think. Yeah, we are. Cool. This is your one.
Yes, services. So this might sound obvious, but it's super important to explain very clearly, very unambiguously what your services are. So again, this is not a place in your website to be creative. Don't try and be clever with describing the services that you provide. If you provide mortgage advice, say you provide mortgage advice, don't try and be clever and come up with something else. People are looking for the words that they are familiar with. And make it easy for people to find what your services are. So I always suggest for my clients to have their services in in the top navigation on their homepage, so they can see very easily. But then I also recommend having a very brief version of your services on your homepage, because your homepage is going to get the most eyeballs. It's where people spend the most amount of time. You want to get as much information without overkill onto your homepage. So I often say just have a very, very brief indication of your services. Then you can dig a bit deeper on your actual services page. And you can also talk about not just your services, but what the services do for your clients. So this is where what I mean by digging into the emotional side of what your services provide. So you could very easily say that you provide retirement planning, but what you really want to talk about, or what might hit home a bit more for a prospect or a lead, is if you talk about what that service can do for them, because that's what people really care about. They want to know, what can the service that you provide do for me to make my life better? So you might want to talk about how the retirement planning that you provide can help you retire early, or help you create generational wealth, or help you take that round the world trip that you've always dreamt of doing. You want to hone in on the benefit of the service, the benefit, not just the feature that we talk about a lot in copywriting. It's just, what does it mean? The so what? Okay, so you can provide mortgage advice. So what? Well, that means that we might be able to get you a bigger mortgage, an interest-only mortgage, whatever it is that you might not have thought you could have got. So really think very carefully about not just listing your services. That's very easy to do. That's probably what everybody does. Make sure you're digging a little bit deeper and thinking, right, well, yes, I provide the service, and this is why it matters, and this is the outcome for you, the so what.
Yeah.
Again, explain it in a way that people understand. Like I said before, don't try and be clever. You know, if someone wants mortgage advice, they expect the word mortgage. If someone wants retirement advice, they'll expect the word retirement. These are words that people understand. Don't go overboard with jargon. Make it clear, make your services brief, like the names of your services very brief. Break them down in a logical way. I often also say, you know, the services that are most popular with your clients, list those first. You know, be clever about how the kind of architecture of your site, the informational architecture of your site. What do people really want to know more about, and put that front and center. And yeah, get to this information really quickly, because as I said before, we are trying with your website to make it as easy as possible for people to say yes to you. And if they are having to dig around and try and figure out what you do and what you offer, they're going to give up and go elsewhere. I can guarantee it. So that's why I always say, have it in your services section. Absolutely 100% important. But I would also recommend having just a brief description of your services on the homepage.
Completely agree. And just maybe just one point on this is, I used to be on the side of things where it was like quite strong side of things where it was, don't even mention the word pension, or don't even mention the word investments or anything like that. I'm actually a little bit softer nowadays, in that people, like, the likelihood is people are coming to you because they have a problem with a pension, or they have a problem with an investment, or they've got questions about mortgages or something like that. And therefore, yes, by all means, like, mention these kind of things. I think the point of it is not to focus too much on these kind of things. So I've seen websites where it's just constantly talking about pensions, constantly talking about investments and that kind of stuff. That's not what we want. Yes, they are coming to you for this kind of stuff, but ultimately, it's, as we know, it's your job to kind of flip the conversation a little bit and say, okay, yes, that stuff is important, but first let's focus on the things that it actually wants, that you want to do with those things. So I think where we put there, don't focus too much on products. yes, don't focus too much on them, but it's not a bad thing to sometimes include bits on these and a bit of education about what they actually are as well.
I'd add to that with this whole jargon thing. And I talk quite a lot about this to clients, is that a lot of times you see people say don't use jargon in any of your marketing, and I actually think that's too simplistic. I think there is definitely an argument to say that in your marketing material jargon should be limited, but it also should be quite intentional as to where you are in your journey as a buyer. So if your client is ready to sign up to your services, they're on your website, the likelihood is they know what a pension is, or they know what an investment portfolio is, because they've done their research, they know what they need. By the time they reach your website, they are going to expect to see words like pension and investment. And actually, if they don't, there's the chance, there's a possibility that you may not look that credible, or that you may look a bit amateurish. Having said that, in different parts of your marketing material, which I know we're not focusing on now, but I think it's relevant in the kind of more top of funnel, as we call it, marketing materials, it is wise to not use as much jargon, because people actually don't know what they want yet. They are still trying to figure it out. They know that they want to be comfortable when they retire, but they may not know that that means that they need to get a SIP or whatever it is. They're not ready for that level of jargon. But by the time you've led them through your marketing and they hit your website, there is an expectation that there should be, and as I agree with Dan, it should not be everywhere, and you don't want to overkill with the jargon, but you do want to have some references to words that they expect to see from you, because you don't want to risk coming across as amateur.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're just over halfway through now. So if you do have any questions, please just put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end. If you don't have questions, that's absolutely fine. But we'll get to them at the end. So next one is, oh God, we've used jargon here. Joe, I should have cut this out. Sorry. CTA, by the way, everybody, means call to action. So if you don't know what CTA means, it means call to action. And sorry for using that jargon. But yeah, effective calls to action. So what we mean by this is somewhere for them to get in touch with you ultimately, and something that actually pushes them towards either booking in a call with you, or emailing you, or giving you a call, or going on the live chat function, or whatever it might be. Something that actually pushes people towards making something happen, because ultimately that's what your website should really be trying to do. It's trying to push people towards making an action, and for most people that is getting in touch with you. So I've put on here, and this is a bit of a joke, but it's make it ridiculously easy for clients to book in a call or appointment. So if we go back to there, for example, you can see on Christian's website here, which is One Day Wealth, we've literally got the Calendly thing at the bottom. So the client doesn't even need to click to go to Calendly. It's automatically in the website, live. The client can book it all in there. They don't need to go anywhere else. Once they do that, it's then in their diary straight away. They can book a call in 15 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever it might be. This is the way that, if you're going to be using this kind of booking system, that's, in my opinion, that's what you should definitely be using. So make it ridiculously easy for clients to book in a call or an appointment. If you're putting your phone number and your email address on there, make them hyperlinked, so that if they're on their phone and they think, right, let's go ahead, and they click on your phone number on the website, it automatically puts it into their thing, so they're calling straight away. Even little things like this, it just kind of pushes them again towards that kind of stuff, because you're trying to reduce the amount of friction towards them actually taking some kind of action. So these kind of things can do that. But don't focus on calls too much. So some people who land on your website will not perhaps be ready to make a call, or to book in a call or email you just yet, or leave a contact form. You can look at what we say warming clients up first. So a lot of people have a secondary call to action, which, for example, is sign up to our newsletter and get a free guide, or download our checklist here, or read our blog here, or listen to our podcast, or whatever it might be, just to kind of, if they're not quite ready yet, that's something just to kind of, again, keep you at, maybe not front of mind, but keep you up there in the top of their mind, of somebody who knows what they're talking about, this kind of stuff. So email funnels and that kind of stuff, I know sometimes they have a bit of a bad rep, but these kind of things work fantastically well. So if you've got something like that, then absolutely include that for those clients who are not ready as well. And this one is extreme. I can't can't stress enough the extreme part of what this one here says. So there's loads of live chat tools out there available at the moment. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them are absolutely dreadful. And what we want to be careful of here is introducing something which is really convenient for you, but it's not convenient at all for the client. So if you're not trusting that something can do this kind of thing well, then put it out and don't use it at all. So there are really good AI live chat bots and all that kind of stuff out there that can respond to clients and all that kind of stuff for you. Obviously, you have to be careful as we do work in a regulated industry, so it doesn't tell it a lot of bollocks, basically. But you can set these things up so that the client can get in touch with you really simply in the bottom right-hand corner and book a call, for example, in the bottom right-hand corner. That's absolutely fine. If you trust live chatbots, then use them. But again, just to say, extreme caution with these kind of things, just because they can actually make you look a bit silly, and they can also kind of increase that friction between you and your audience as well. Anything on that, Joe?
Yeah, just to make sure you have calls to action. I've seen it when I've done website audits in the past. People don't have any calls to action apart from on their contact us page. So going back to what I said about just making it very, very easy for clients to take action, have call to action buttons dotted throughout your site, especially on the homepage. And also, I often recommend having either testimonials around your calls to action just to reduce any kind of friction. Maybe you've got a testimonial about how easy it is to work with you from a client. Have that nearby a call to action, just in case someone's like, oh, do I want to press this button? Do I want to get in touch? And then they see this testimonial and it's like, there we go, nudge. And also having things like no obligation, free call, reducing the friction, just making sure that, you know, any kind of objection they may have for getting in touch is you've targeted, you've addressed it. Just every nudge you can think of, and reiterating the fact that, you know, hyperlinks should be a different color or highlighted or something, so they stand out. Because again, this is something I've seen too many times. Email here or get in touch, and it just gets blurred into the copy. So yeah, make it stand out.
Definitely. And I think as a simple trick for making sure that you've got calls to action everywhere is to just stick them in your footer so that something is on every page. So for all the websites we build, have a Calendly and a contact form and an email address in the footer, so that on every single page it pulls through with that kind of stuff. So you're not just leaving it to the contact us page like you said there, Joe. So yeah, completely agree.
I think that's a really good point. Just going about the different ways of getting in touch is that some people prefer to drop an email, some people want a form, some people want a phone call. So making sure you have all of that is important. So yeah.
100%.
Okay.
FAQs.
Yes, FAQs. Oh, I love FAQs. So I feel like people miss out FAQs so much, and they're such an important part of a website, and they do such important work. And I'd go as far as saying, if you don't have one, you're missing a big opportunity. You're a bit crazy, really. You're missing opportunity to really. Well, the first thing I would say about FAQs is, and the important one is, you're giving the user a really good user experience. So if they have, if they're trying to answer a very simple question, head to the FAQs. It's obvious where it is. You're addressing their concerns right there and then. But although you're giving them a good experience, and that's really important, it's also good for you as a business, because it's a good way of weeding out the people who you actually aren't going to be working with, or who are bad leads or aren't suitable leads. You can make it very clear what you do, who you do it for, again, the type of services you provide. You can reiterate it in the FAQs. Think about I think that basically you've got to think about what people are going to stop them saying yes. So one good way of figuring out what to include in your FAQs is to think about the questions and record them of the clients you actually have. What are the questions they're asking on that initial call that you think, actually, if I'd put those in my FAQs, I could have either reduce the need for the call altogether, or I could have reduced the time of the call. And although it's just shaving kind of minutes off your call time, if you add that up over a number of calls, you're saving yourself a substantial amount of time. So record the questions and include them in your FAQs, and think about what is stopping them. What are objections? What are their fears? What are they thinking? Oh, if I knew this, then maybe I would get in touch, but I don't, so I'm not going to. So it could be things that are simple things like your fee structure, like how do you charge? How often do you get in touch? Is it just you or is it a team approach? What do you need to start the process? Questions that are very easy to address. Things about your firm, regulation, are you regulated? Things like this that they're gonna want to know, but these are easy questions to answer. And yeah, importantly, don't overcook it. Don't make them too long. Don't make them too wordy. Try and answer these questions in the way that you would respond verbally, how you would talk. You want these to be really easy to digest, very accessible, and having them is it's a way of showcasing that you care about your clients and about customer service, that you're professional, and that you've thought about your clients before. You've given it some thought, and I just think it's a really easy and essential way of showing that you're a legitimate organization.
Yeah. Yeah, I also agree with FAQs. I think they are a bit of they're a bit of a low-hanging fruit that nobody really seems to take in financial planning, to be honest. They're definitely not a default on lots of financial planning websites, but I do think they are really, really cool. I completely agree with what you just said there about answering it how you would answer it in person. You can be quite not funny, but you can answer them in your own language as well, which absolutely makes it feel more like they're actually talking to a person when they're looking at this kind of stuff, rather than some randomly generated answers or something like that. So yeah, I think these things, if nothing else today, I think FAQs would be a really, really good thing to start with on your website as well.
Great. And also you can tailor them to the page of your website. Some people I know use the same FAQs and they dot them throughout the website, and other people have kind of tailored to a specific service. If you're struggling because you think you've got too much copy, say on your services page, and it's becoming too wordy, and there's not enough white space and it's all overcrowded, actually you could probably take away some of the information and stick it in the FAQs. And the other thing to add is, as we all know, websites are iterative, they change all the time, you're updating them all the time. So update your FAQs. If you get a phone call from someone, you think, oh my goodness, that should have been on my website, add it. Your website is not a static entity. It's not going to sit there for years and then in 10 years' time you come and change it. It should be updating as your business changes and as your clients evolve and as your services evolve. So bear that in mind as well with your FAQs.
Definitely.
This is me too. Yes, your process. So I think this is I don't know, this is probably a bit of a Marmite one. I think some people would hate the idea of putting their process on the website, but I personally think it's a really good idea. I think it's a really easy way to build trust and credibility and transparency. You're being very, very transparent with how you run and how your business runs and what the client can expect, which is just going to build confidence. It's going to make them feel more confident in you as a business and in your services. It's also, remember, for a lot of people, this might be the first time they've ever received financial advice. They may have absolutely no idea what it entails, whether it's an in-person phone call, in-person meeting, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's by phone, whether they have to speak to you every week, whether they speak to you once a year. Some people have absolutely no idea. They don't know whether they call you, you call them. If their situation changes, what they do, they might be totally confused. Even if people who've had financial advice in the past may still be quite confused as how it works. They've not had a good experience. So making your process clear and accessible is, I think, a really good idea. It also is, don't overdo it. You don't need to go into, minute detail about what happens on day one and day two and every form they need to fill in and how many times a day they're going to hear from. You don't need to overdo it. Just very clear. I've seen websites that have like flow charts, which is nice. I mean, that's a design thing. You can have flow charts, you can have kind of box outs, you can make it very, very simple and straightforward, as long as there's enough detail that they can come away being clear and comfortable. And also it's a really good opportunity for people to know what's needed from them. And when you onboard your a client, what do they need, the paperwork they need, the time commitment they'll need, how it works, what happens after the initial phone call or after the initial meeting, what they need to provide so that everything can just run smoothly. Because as a business, you want to run smoothly. As a client, they want the process to be smooth. So the more information you can give them about what comes next, the better. Another point on your process is I think it's a really good way of firms to differentiate themselves as well. You might have a very unique process. You may not, which is absolutely fine. But if you do something differently, whatever that may be, you use a certain technology, you are known for being extremely responsive and proactive to, I don't know, market movements, you get in touch or whatever it is, it could be a whole range of things. But if you do something differently, you should tell people on your website. Don't make them have to guess or find out somewhere else or find out on the initial call, because it might be too late by then. They might have gone elsewhere. So if you do something, your process is different. The way that you onboard might be different. The way that you the information that you gather at the beginning of the relationship with the client is different. If you're very much into kind of life planning and financial planning, I highlight these things in your process because it might just be the thing that moves them forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, just one extra point on this is we've called it process. I think a lot of people call them journeys, which I really like, because if I was to go onto a website and then it was like process, I think I'd probably be quite bored even just looking at that word. So you can be a bit creative with this kind of stuff. And I completely agree with what you said there, Joe, about flow charts and that kind of stuff. Don't just say, and then you will do this, and then you will do this, and then we will go through this. Make it look visual, make it look nice, make it look like it's an actual thing. And you can also name it as well. So for example, one firm that we've worked with called their process Life by Design, which is a really nice, like their Life by Design process, which is really, really cool. And I love that name. They call it that, and the clients, it's almost like a bit of a product that they get, which is really nice for clients to look at. And it brings it to life a little bit more, other than just having our process. Or some people call them the X way. So like, for example, we use Carla Brown before. They call their process the Oakmere way, which is really nice, and that sounds lovely, and clients buy into that kind of thing as well. So don't be afraid to be a bit creative with this kind of things as well. The final one is your own brand and imagery, and this is definitely a hygiene thing, but just something to point out. I don't want to offend anybody, but I think we all know that picture. I searched retirement into Pexels, which is a free royalty-free image bank online, and this is the one that came up. And I would imagine that you guys will have definitely seen this before. We all know that this is a little bit boring. The emoji wasn't actually in the picture, by the way. I've added that onto there, of course. But this is what everybody else is using. So the things that really stand out are where you look a bit different to everybody else. So don't be afraid to be different. What makes you unique? If you've got a really nice brand with lots of different colors and that kind of stuff should shine through. You should really aim and strive to be a little bit different and to use different imagery and to kind of mix things up a little bit. And I don't think that you should be afraid to do that. I think that should be your aim, to do that, because you want to fill that gap between you and somebody else. Ensure your brand comes through strongly. So brand doesn't just mean logos and colors and fonts and all that kind of stuff. It means your personality. It means the way you talk. It means the way that you do things. It means your values, all these different kind of things. Make sure that really comes through strongly. You can do that visually, but you can also do that in text as well. So you can tell stories. You can be really, really different to everybody else, and make it so obvious what makes you unique to everybody else. And use imagery that reflects the people that you want to work with, or your ideal clients, not what our industry looks like. So for example, I've seen lots of websites where it's like a video or an image of the city in London. Unless you're a financial planner in the city in London, that to most people will just look boring and dull and corporate. Financial planning is not boring, dull, or corporate. So we really need to reflect what they're going to be doing. So if your clients are, for example, dentists who like to go skiing, which is one of the websites we've just been building recently, we've put literally images and videos of people skiing on there. So because we know that their target audience is people who like to go ski. So it's a bit of a playful thing, but it's just different to what you expect from financial planning. And that's ultimately what we're trying to be here, is we're trying to just make ourselves stand out from the way that everybody else is doing things. And you can do that with brand, and you can do that with imagery as well. Anything else to add to that one, Joe?
No, I just think that the point you make about brand not just being about logos and color palettes is very important.
Yeah.
Think very carefully about the way you communicate, the vocabulary you use, the sentence structures you use, everything about the way you communicate should be consistent throughout all your marketing material, from your newsletters to your blogs to your website, and define it and make sure everybody in your business is using it consistently so that it becomes part of your DNA and it's identifiable. And then you become an identifiable brand if you're using these aspects.
Yeah, and sometimes we get asked about whether personal brand or business brand matters the most. I still don't have an answer to that question, by the way. So apologies if anybody is thinking that. I think they can both be used in lots of different scenarios for lots of different things. But for a business brand, certainly that kind of stuff really matters, about the way that everybody talks, not just the website. Make sure that everybody buys into that way of things, that we're gonna look like this to the outside world. So make sure that your team understand it as well. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so that is everything for today. So I have put Joe's website on that QR code. Actually, you know what I'm going to do, Joe, just to make sure I've got it right. I'm going to scan that right now. Yep, that works, and it takes people through to joefaithcopywriting.com. So if you want to find out more about Joe, Joe, do you want to just plug for a second?
Sorry, what did I
Do you want to plug what you do?
Yes, sure. Yes, if anyone needs any help or wants any advice on website copywriting, newsletter copy, blog copy, then get in touch. I'm a financial copywriter, and I specialize in copy for financial brands, advisors, planners, and coaches. I was an ex-financial journalist, worked on various B2B publications, including Professional Advisor, IFA Online, so I'm quite familiar with the financial planning world. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. All my contact details are on my website, or you can follow me on LinkedIn at Joe Faith.
Brilliant. And Joe's got very, very clear calls to action on her website as well. So loads of ways to get in touch with her. And if you want to book a call with us to design websites, so we do websites, and all of the websites that you've seen today, the little snippets of, they have been docVinci websites. So if this year is the year that you're looking to freshen up your website or build a new website or whatever it might be, you can book a call with us there. I've definitely tested that one, and that one does work. Alternatively, you could just go to docvinci.co.uk and you'll find out more information about us on there. I don't think that we've got any questions, Joe. Let me just have a double check. No, we don't. So unless anybody does have any burning questions right now, then we'll end things there. I must just say a massive thank you to you, Joe, for joining us today, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on this webinar. It's been really, really nice having you here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And of course, thank you to you guys who watched this as well, who are watching live or who are watching the recording. We really appreciate you registering for this webinar. Like I said, this has been recorded and we're going to put it out on YouTube, so you can check it out on there if you've missed anything today. We'll be sending the slides over to everybody who registered for the webinar tomorrow at some point. And if you do want to get in touch, of course, we're always here to help. But yeah, thank you very, very much for joining us, everybody. We hope you have a lovely rest of this week. It's election week when we're recording this as well, so there should be some big surprises coming this week. But thank you very, very much for everybody for joining us, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.